session of this afternoon, which is William Carson, who is Director of Marketing Engagement at Ascensos. William's session is looking at engaging with the customer of the future. It's sure to be very interesting. Over to you, William.
Hello, my name is William Carson. I'm the Director of Market Engagement at Ascensos. Ascensos is an independent provider of customer management and customer engagement solutions exclusively to clients in the retail, e-commerce and e-retail markets across Europe and in the UK. I'd like to thank Jane Thomas very much for the opportunity to speak to you today at the Contact Centre Leaders Convention with Southwest Contact Centre Forum and Call Northwest. Some weeks ago, Jane and I had a discussion about what I might focus on for today's conversation. And really, we know some will look at leadership, some will look at productivity of the customer management operation, some will look at employee engagement. But the thing that really excites me is being a customer. I am a customer. And therefore, what is the future customer going to look like? How are they going to engage with brands? How do we need to respond and why? What might be the possible disconnects and how we're going to resolve them? Just take a step back first and just say, well, like, what is retail today? Retail is concerned, as we know from working with our clients, understanding how customer expectations are changing, how that impacts how they can interact with the brands, and getting as much insight as possible about how customers think, what informs their thinking, and then what is it that they do? How do they act based on that thinking? Yes, of course, there's another side to this, which is the cost model behind supporting how we interact with the customer. I wrote recently about this in Intelligence Sourcing magazine, really looking at the reality of today is that there are boards for many, many brands that we're all familiar with who will be discussing how they prioritize digital transformation enablement, how they prioritize the use of gig perhaps, or a hybrid customer management model, how they work with providers that are going to help with automation and digitizing their operation. But through all of that, they're going to want to understand what is the customer that they're actually going to serve next year, the year after, and the year after that. Let's for a moment think about what a future customer might look like. If you've changed your mobile, or perhaps at your banking provider or your utilities provider in the last 18 months, you're already a different customer to what you were at the start of 2019 or the start of 2020. A new mobile phone may have come with features that you didn't have before, may have come with access to new functionality that has allowed you to think about your interactions with brands in a different way. If you're a new utilities provider, you might find your new provider is so much better engaging with you or not engaging with you, whatever your preference is. But it's changed your perception, and therefore you are a future customer compared to where you were start of 2019, start of 2020. For me, I wanted to go back to a time when I remember being a future customer, when I felt I was suddenly part of the future and not of the past. And it all centers around 1988 when this beauty turned up, okay? This is Next Directory number 1. And it came out in 1988. Up until then, when you were home shopping, what was the one thing most of us who have any memory of that time will remember? Allow 28 days for delivery. Suddenly, here came a provider that said, you know what? If you phone us, you can phone us till 10 o'clock at night in 1988, and we'll deliver your goods in 48 hours. And it would be delivered up till 10 o'clock at night. Not only that, if it doesn't fit or you wanted to go back, we'll send someone out. You can ring us again till 10 o'clock at night. 10 o'clock at night, you can ring us. We'll send someone round, and 2 days later, they'll come and get it, and we'll take it back to our warehouse. In 1988, 33 years ago, when you think about it, the only business that you could call at 10 o'clock at night was probably 999. So the idea that you could ring a business up to 10 p.m. and order clothes and have them delivered in 48 hours was just unheard of. It was just unheard of. But it created a new expectation of what a customer should get from a brand and from a brand relationship. 1989, along came First Direct. First Direct was a bank, and it came along at a time when usually banks shut, I don't know, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we spent the rest of the weekend cashing checks in pubs, the rest of it. Suddenly we had a bank that was available 24/7, 365 days a year by phone. We could ring them and speak to them any day of the year, at any time, day or night. It was, again, unheard of, and like Next Directory, a complete shift in what the expectations of customers could be when interacting and engaging with the brand. So for me, I felt I was a real future customer. I bought into all of this at the time. I bought into the idea of a call center as a bank. I bought into the idea of a call center as a place that I went to have conversations around the clothes I wanted to wear, the shoes, the gifts, whatever. And this was a big part of what the future customer was in 1988. But the really important thing I'd like to point out here is technology wasn't involved. There was no new technology involved with this. This was a catalogue, and you did have to phone up or send in a coupon, as it were. This was a bank, although that was different. You did get to phone the bank and speak to someone about your money. But it was technology that was already available. It wasn't new, it was a phone, and yet it was the ideas behind it. If it is your money, why shouldn't you phone a bank? Why shouldn't you be able to speak to them 24 hours a day? If it is clothes that you want for the weekend, why shouldn't you phone up for it on Wednesday and have it on Friday night? And this was the difference. This was ideas, not technology. So let's think, where is that today? You have to pardon my voice. It's going at the moment. Where is that today? Well, of course, it's Amazon. It's Amazon this, it's Amazon that, it's Amazon everything. So you've got Amazon Prime, you've got Amazon Fresh, and now you've got Amazon Alexa, and you've got Amazon Alexa with the screen. And heaven knows I've saved so many cocktail recipes on that little screen now. I'll be having a wonderful time when all my friends come around after national lockdown is lifted. But again, it's not the technology. The technology is already there. All they've done is they say, well, why shouldn't you be able to ask Alexa to add something to your shopping list? Why shouldn't you be able to do these basic things that we take for granted of one another or of ourselves? Why shouldn't we ask the technology to do some of that heavy lifting for us? No, it's not for everybody. I think it was the CEO of GML said, the efficiencies of Amazon are not for everybody. Some organizations, and we have some organizations that we work with very closely, they want those conversations with customers, because it's through those conversations that you really get a sense of, especially when it's a high value transaction, you need to build the relationship so that you can properly serve the customer and the things that they're looking for, the needs and wants that they have. But undoubtedly, Amazon has created a new bar for what are the expectations of customers. What was common to both First Direct and Next Directory, there was an experiential element to it as well. So we had the bank sending out these wonderful wallets for your credit cards, for your checkbook. We had the swatches and just the overall feel of Next Directory, which was completely different to just a throwaway catalogue with 1,000, 2,000 pages in it. And of course, the experiential is going to be important to the customer of the future, just as it was in my time. And if I think back to just as recently as December 5th, when I headed into town to Oxford Circus when the lockdown lifted, it was really fascinating to see that appetite and desire that people had to get back to the high street. And I've included the video that I captured at the time, just as a quick sense of the buzz and the energy around Oxford Street at that time. And it was just the week, I think, that Arcadia had announced the collapse, and yet Topshop was full. And it just made you realize that it will come back, and it will come back with a bang when it is possible to come back. But of course, there will be elements within what retailers need to do to make those relevant and engaging and exciting and full of energy for the customer. Almost, if you get this idea of phygital, so that, you know, when they go online, when they're on the mobile app, whatever, they have a recognized pathway from that experience to the experience they get in store at the same brand. What about the customer of the future? What about my own kids? So I thought, you know what? I will ask my 15-year-old daughter, who's always watching vloggers, what it is that interests her, why it interests her, and what brands they're working with, what's the focus of each one of them, and who her favorite is. First up was Karina Wang. Now, Karina Wang has 670,000 YouTube subscribers, 52.3 million views since 2013. She's got 644,000 Instagram followers. The brand she's engaged with that my daughter loves are Shein, Boohoo, and Nasty Gal. Her focus, Karina Wang's focus, is styling tips, outfit ideas, and lookbooks. My daughter's quote is, videos are entertaining, includes many videos featuring affordable brands. She also includes discount codes. So that's where my daughter gets the discount codes. She doesn't get them through Voucher or wherever. She gets them through the influencer marketer vlogs. The next one up was Freddie My Love, a Londoner. She has 1.14 million YouTube subscribers, 106.1 million views since 2012, and 370,000 Instagram followers. The brands she looks after are more high-end: Zimmermann, Zara, ASOS, and H&M, and Hollister. Again, my daughter says, although she does shop higher-end brands, she includes affordable dupes for them, and she's a Londoner. So right away, there's a new language there. I've talked about lookbooks, no idea what they are. I've talked about dupes. So yes, someone out there in fashion will say, you should be all over this, but the reality is they're things that are new to me. Lookbooks and dupes. The other one then is Shan Lily. Shan Lily is 570,000 YouTube subscribers. She's had 26.9 million views since 2014, 230 Instagram followers, and she looks after brands like Zara and House of CB. Her focus is fashion hauls, outfit ideas, wardrobe essentials, lifestyle ideas, and lookbooks. So we've got lookbooks, we've got affordable dupes, and we've got fashion hauls. Areas that I don't genuinely know anything about, so let's be honest. But this is a customer of the future talking about the things that interest her. Now, that all pales into comparison when you look at some of the Vanity Fair people. So a few years ago, I was at an event. There was another Retail Week event, 2017, I think it was. And the top guy from YouTube was there, and he was talking about the fact that Vanity Fair around that year had done its usual who's who type survey. And suddenly they were getting all these names that they'd never heard of. It wasn't Brad Pitt, it wasn't all the main actors or all the main musicians. It were people they'd never heard of. And when they actually did a bit of investigation, they realized it was all these vloggers, YouTubers, who had millions and millions and millions of subscribers. And some of them have put into the presentation. Can't read their names because it's too small for me from here. Emma, 8.43 million subscribers. Brothers, Ethan and the other guy, 10.4 million. And gaming, of course, what do you expect? Mark has 24.3 million subscribers. These numbers are real engagements, real customers of the future, real customers that we have to think, how are we going to ensure that our customer management operation is going to be relevant, applicable, and able to engage in a way that is meaningful for customers of the future, when this is kind of where they're living, where their high street is, versus where we, as a certain age group or a certain background in this industry, have understood our high street to be. What I want to talk about now is influencer marketing. It's an area that I obviously have known about, but I got a little rude awakening about the reality of it about a couple of years ago. I was coming back from New York, and I'd been out with a friend the night before. I'd had a couple of beers. I'd upgraded my seats, so I was looking forward to getting this long haul back to London. Very comfortable, relaxed. And right at the last minute, when I thought the seat was going to remain empty beside me all the way back, this lady came in and sat down. And it turns out she's an influencer marketer, a young woman called Erica Pellicini. What I didn't realize was she'd booked Wi-Fi access all the way from JFK to Heathrow. And she was on WhatsApp conversations all the way there as she was heading into London to London Fashion Week. And And it sort of increased my resentment because I was, really looking forward to that little bit of kip. It increased my resentment about influencer marketing. But then a very good friend of mine, Oshin Lunny, invited me to Influencer Marketing World about 2-3 weeks ago. And I thought, you know what? Just because I don't like a thing doesn't mean I'm not going to investigate. I'm not going to try and understand it, because I'm sure because it's engaged with customers, because customers are engaged with it, it's something we need to know about as an organization. We need to know about it on behalf of our clients. We need to know about it in terms of how we're going to respond and why, and what the benefits are of understanding this marketplace in our customer management operations. So I went on Influencer Marketing World, and I think the thing that really stood out for me was, one, Oxfam. There was Oxfam with their Influencer Marketing World approach. They've been doing it for 12 months over the past year. They explained why they did it, how it offered them opportunities to have other voices speaking for them, and also to access an energy and a personalization, if you like, around the influencer marketer that perhaps takes them out of just simply being corporately fueled through the headquarters of Oxfam as a business. And then there was the organization, the taxi company Bolt, or as they call it, the mobility platform organization Bolt, operating across Africa and the Middle East. Huge numbers of interactions. And again, they're all in the presentation, but when you see 300 new pieces of content every month, when you see the number of users, the number of influencer marketers they're using, and the response they're getting to their influencer marketers, you very quickly realize this is something that you can't ignore. Now, the real click for me was when I saw that there is a company called Modash, and Modash are actually the organization that create the analysis engines and platforms behind influencer marketing. Now, that's really important. We all know the importance of measurement, monitoring, and management. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. If you can't monitor it, etc. And yet, it's something I hadn't really taken on board. But when you look at something like Modash and how they're helping organizations like Bolt understand where their influencer marketing is working, where it isn't, what works best, what gets more response, and then feeding that back into the organization in a way that allows them to constantly review who they're working with, how they're getting remunerated, and what works best in terms of the customers that are actually then using their services is fundamental. And it wakes you up to the fact that this is a real and happening part of the consumer experience today, and therefore part of the future customer. So how are we going to respond to this, and why? Okay. Customers are knaves. It was a blog I wrote about several years ago. Customer isn't king. The customer are knaves. And Amido, who's the organization behind the original ASOS platform, said it very well. Loyalty it's old hat. It's passive. I can be loyal to many, many brands throughout my life, but it's passive. It's almost like, it's not that I don't dislike them. I like them. I'm loyal to them. And they're a brand that I remember or have a nostalgic reason for being connected to. Loyalty is passive. It's advocacy, which is proactive. It's advocacy, which makes you tell your friend, put something on Facebook, put something on Instagram, subscribe to a vlog. It's advocacy that gets you engaged, gets you excited, and gets you enthused about a product, a brand, and a purchase. And therefore, how are we going to respond to that, and why? Yes, we need the technology to educate inside the organization. So instead of maybe our staff only having access to the knowledge to deliver the service, it's the wider knowledge around who are the best vloggers at the moment, who are the best brand ambassadors out there in the wider consumer market sphere that they need to know about, that they can then resonate when someone does connect by email, live chat, or whatever in the customer management operation. And likewise with our leadership. And then we've got to look for the opportunities for technology in the new world of the future consumer. A good example, there's a couple of good examples I saw. So the first one was Heels. So Heels, I saw this on, I think it was Retail Week a few weeks ago, and he was discussing how actually they, during the period when stores were shut, they had linked the live chat at the front end of their e-commerce solution into the store in Tottenham Court Road, the flagship store. What that meant was customers thought they were just doing live chat on e-commerce. It was often the ether, but it was actually going directly to customer service representatives for Heels on the floor, surrounded by the furniture that they were browsing online. That was great because it gave a credibility to the dialogue and the conversation, which meant very quickly that infectious excitement and energy and enthusiasm for the products got more engagement from the people browsing the website and chatting on live chat. And more often than not, they would then say, well, do you want to call us and discuss it? Phone numbers would be swapped and there'd be a conversation. Now, the ROI in this has been pretty impressive. And the ROI is basically a 50 to 100% increase in order value and a 10-fold conversion rate for the conversations and the customer journeys that came through that route. That's really impressive. But again, going back to Next Directory and First Direct, it was ideas, not tech. It was an idea that made that work. The technology was there, of course, but it was the idea, not the technology, that made it work. Then another great example is Coty. Coty is a big beauty brand in America, and what they've found is working really well for them, again, hitting on the influencer market piece, is the TikTok piece and streaming. That's created huge customer engagement streams for them, which they've been able to amplify and augment through customer engagement that has allowed them to turn that into revenue for their business. Then in the fulfillment side, another organization that was on that same day's presentations was the CEO of Habu. Now, Habu is a fulfillment center based down in Bath. And what I loved about what they were doing was they were taking a technology software enablement attitude to fulfillment, which can be pretty, you pick it, you pack it, you post it out the door. But no, they were saying, no, let's think about all the organizations that are SME, that don't have the scale that needs a DHL or a UPS. And let's build micro warehouses for all of these smaller but engaged and effective brands inside our larger warehouse. Now, I'm probably doing a massive disservice, but it was an impressive approach that they were looking firstly at the technology-led approach rather than just simply the outcome approach. And then, of course, you've got other organizations like Avon DX out of Canada. And what they're doing, which is interesting, is they're taking the measurement and monitoring that we do need and we do want in the customer environment to help support our people and make them the best they can be. And they're then flipping that and putting it back into the retail stores where they're recording in real time and analyzing in near real time the conversations that frontline staff are having with customers in store to help them understand where they're achieving maximum effectiveness in terms of have they said all the things that are right, that they understand the customer needs to and wants to hear. And then another one which I think is brilliant that I just saw this week is a company called Ecosystem.ai out of South Africa. And what they're really doing is putting a telepathy layer around all of the data analytics piece inside the customer management offering. The reason that what they're doing is looking at, let's make it autonomous. Let's make it self-learning. Let's make it machine learning. Let's make it active. So it's not just learning stuff and then waiting for someone to tell them what to do. It's doing digital enablement and transformation enablement by simply acting on the information as and when it gets it and then constantly renewing its learning so that it can consistently and on a 24/7, 365 basis be constantly engaged and working with customers where the customer is at based on what the customer has done. And what they've done is they've married the behavioral science element to the data science element and then put it into an autonomous machine learning environment that keeps that running all the time without any human involvement at all. And when you think of those millions of subscribers on YouTube, millions of subscribers on Instagram, you can see why we are going to need this kind of technology for the future, because we're not all going to be able to have to think about it. There's a great book I came across called Join or Die, which is about automation and digital agencies. And it's great because it's written by a guy, from a guy's point of view who did not like automation and wanted to prove that the human involvement in planning digital campaigns was always going to be better than just letting a bot do it. And there's another thing. I spoke to the boss, John Devlin, at Ascensos, CEO of Ascensos, and I was asking him about this conversation that I was going to have today about what his view was. And he says, well, William, what about when it's a bot talking to a bot? And I thought, absolutely right, of course. At some point, when I ask Alexa to put something in the shopping list, it's no longer me who's doing the shopping. It's actually Alexa. And over the fulfillment piece, if we go down the route of some of the technology-led fulfillment houses, it'll be a bot who's fulfilling the order. So that's another thing we've got to fit into this whole cacophony of ideas, not technology, but ideas around how technology will be used and will be used for the benefit of the consumer, but it obviously has to find a place that it's also a benefit for the growth trajectory of the organization and the retailer and the growth trajectory that the board has tasked the operational people within the business to achieve. For this, I thought I would just quote some of the statistics around Alibaba. Alibaba being China's leading, well, basically its version of Amazon, if you like. And the figures for their Singles Day is on November 11th each year. They don't have Black Friday, they don't have Cyber Monday. They have Singles Day. But some of the figures were absolutely astounding for 2019. And I think just like QR codes, just like JD Sports with their touchscreen tables and things that react to the radio frequency, things that they have in their shoes, I think we can see and expect that while those stores have been shut for those major brands, they're not going to open like they looked in 2019. These stores are going to open, and the thinkers and doers and movers and shakers inside these retail brands will have done things that are going to excite, engage, and energize their customer base again once it's possible for them to be inside those stores. And a lot of that thinking, I believe, will come from the successes of what's been done in Korea, what's been done in China. But some of these figures, let's just have a look at them. So the total gross merchandise value on Alibaba for Singles Day was $38.4 billion. That was more than the combined sales of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Thanksgiving Day, and Small Business Saturday combined in the US, which was $24.6 billion. They were churning through 544,000 orders per second, with a total merchandise value of $1 billion every 68 seconds. They had 200,000 participating brands on Singles Day in 2019, and 1 million new products were launched on Singles Day 2019. Final fact, the total gross merchandise value transacted on Alibaba's China marketplace in 2019 was $853 billion. So that's what we've got to be ready for. Change the glasses. Sorry, those are reading. These are for seeing. That's what we've got to get ready for. Consumers are changing. They're changing how they experience brands. They're changing how they want to experience acquiring products and services. And really the challenge now is to reflect, review, and think about how we're going to do that going into the next 12, 36 months, next 3 to 5 years, heading into the customer for the 21st century, going all the way up to 2030. Coming to the end of the chat now, so I'm really looking now at where do I think the disconnects lie, and how might we resolve them. Very, very simple for me. I think it's just about education. The real disconnect is education. We have to self-educate at a leadership level, at a management level, at a staffing level on the front line. We've got to have that empowerment in our organizations that people feel they have the time, they have the tools, and they have the skills to self-educate. We don't really have the luxury of waiting for a drip-down effect. We've got to really appreciate that if people if we have this idea in our organization that it's bring your own device, for example, for work from home or gig economy, for example, we've actually got to think it differently. We've got to start to think, bring your own customer, bring yourself as your future customer to your organization, serving these brands. Because ultimately, if we don't educate, then even in the short time that I've been looking at some of the things that I'm interested in, because the things I feel I know less about, and you'll see the stats in the presentation, the things that are really, really important for us to have a grasp on as we go into the next 12, 36 months, as we see things opening up again, availability of new technologies. We haven't even got on to the blockchain dress, which doesn't exist, which sold for $7,000. We haven't yet got on to NFTs, the non-fundable tokens that are selling for tens of thousands of dollars. So we've got 5G coming. We've got the Internet of Things. So put it like this. We haven't even really discussed yet the digital twin scenario. And you'll say, well, what's a digital twin scenario? Very, very simply, it's this. The use of our mobile phone, the use of our apps, the use of what we do on our laptops, they are all broadcasting data about us. We're creating out there a digital twin of ourselves. This is how William Carson behaves in certain situations at certain times of the day. This is what he likes to buy. Delivery knows what I want to eat certain times of the month. Just Eat knows what I like to eat other times of the month. Netflix knows what I like to watch. Amazon knows also what I like to watch, but also likes to come up with ideas about what I should buy. Now, the only problem with Amazon is, which is going back to a bit of the ecosystem.ai stuff, is don't keep presenting me with a watch when I've just bought one. And don't keep presenting me with, makeup that actually you could tell from my profile is probably not for me. It's probably for someone in the household that's unrelated to me. So that it doesn't have everything right. But again, it's educating ourselves around all of this is going to be really, really important for retailers, customer management operations going into the next 2, 3, 5 years. And other great examples we'll see of technology being used specifically inside the contact center environment are what we will see happening with recruitment, with learning development, and with monitoring, measuring, and supporting our staff so that they're always on their best game. And this is all moved into technology sphere, away from the classic models that were used maybe even 5 years ago, because they have to work at pace, they have to work at scale, and of course now they have to work at home. So really, for me, to finish off, we've looked at what we see happening in retail, the insight piece, what we see as the things that are affecting how consumers think, which is everything from influencer marketing through to the best use of ideas, the use of technology like Amazon and Alexa, and then how and why we need to respond to that, because the prize and the numbers are significant and we need to get it right. And then finally, those disconnects, as I described, the potential for disconnects is probably, in my view, where the lack of empowerment, education is inside the organization, and that has to be addressed, because we really don't have the luxury of time. When this all starts switching on again, whether it be for the next peak quarter at the end of this year, the golden quarter, we've got to be ready. We've got to be ready, and we've got to be relevant. And for us to be relevant, we've got to think about some of these things I was presenting today that are going to be really important to the mindset, skill set, and tool set that we bring into our business to manage the customer of the future, which is all of us as we move forward with our needs and wants and requirements over the next several years. Thank you for listening. I've really enjoyed presenting today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry I've got a bit of a throat, but that's just the time of year. And I look forward very much to seeing people when we can actually sit and talk about some of this stuff and debate about it. And I'm sure there's people that might disagree with me, people that'll think I've missed a million different things, but really it's really my own sense of some of the things that we need to really be addressing to understand how we're going to serve and serve in a relevant and meaningful way the customer of the future. So thank you very much.